Hi, everybody, and good morning and welcome. We are so glad to have you joining Empowering Seniors. I'm Neil Sperry. I hope you've heard me on the radio. I've been on the radio for a good while, and I've actually been at this event in a couple of different venues 2 other times. This is a really different venue, and it's going to be fun. I brought PowerPoint today, and I'm going to share some photographs and some discussion points with you. I'm going to have a lot of fun. I hope you'll have a lot of fun as well. And so we're going to turn fiction into facts for the next half hour or so. So get comfortable and get a soft drink or a cup of coffee, and let's talk gardening. This is going to be a beautiful weekend for gardening in north central Texas, and it's the best time of the year. This is why we put up with all that mess in the summertime, so that we can garden in the fall. It's the best time for planting. Nurseries are stocked right now, and they're trying to clear out a lot of merchandise before Christmas. They have more time now than they do in the spring. It's cool. This is going to be a cool weekend. Beautiful weather. Oh my goodness gracious. Let's go shopping. Let's get out in the landscape and garden. So I think I'm ready to go, and we're going to give it a try. I haven't done a lot of talks this way. I've done a few. If I make a glitch or two here or there, we're friends, right? We're going to get along just fine. So I'm going to share my screen now with you, and then I will get my talk underway, and we'll see how it goes. Hit share right there, and we'll hit share right there, and we'll see if that's working. How's that look, team? Looking all right? There we go. I think we're good. So that's just it. That doesn't tell you anything. Those are crepe myrtles, for crying out loud. I like crepe myrtles. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but they perform kind of my background function there, and with a little bit of effects out of good old Photoshop, they become the background of my talk. So once again, I'll welcome myself into your home or wherever it is that you are. My name is Sperry. I've been doing garden broadcasting in north central Texas since 1970. I was with the Extension Service for 7 years, and then commercial broadcasting since 1978. And for this time, I'm your gardening fact checker right here at your service. You know, we've heard that term fact checker a lot this week, and that's about as close to the politics of it all that I'm going to get. I don't want to go there. I just don't want to go there. But we are going to talk about facts of gardening and turn fiction into those facts. So I bring you greetings from my front yard. The virtual background I had was our backyard. We live out in the country in Collin County, and we're in a pecan forest. There's a lot of shade overhead in this particular part of our landscape. Doesn't look like it, but there's a lot of shade. And in our backyard, it's nothing but shade. And so I tell you, you have to learn to cope with shade, and that's true. From the Sperry home landscape to you, and with thanks to Tarrant County Commissioner Gary Fickus. I can't say his name often enough, because this is a huge event. If you've not been to a real live in-person event, oh my goodness gracious, it's an effort, and he does a wonderful job of putting this together. So I'm going to turn fiction into facts. I've said that enough times. Myths and mistakes into successes for you in gardening. Rules of green thumb, things you'll want to remember so that you'll be successful in gardening. That is an actual, true enough, fall color photo down the road from our house. We live, as I said, out in the country. And that year, this is about 5 or 6 years ago, we had Shumard red oaks and ash and other trees, a couple of American elms. That's across from some soccer fields. And oh my goodness, they were so pretty. I took a lot of photos. So it can happen, doesn't happen very often, but that's beautiful. 30 facts you can use. Number 1, good soil is the foundation. You know, when you build a house, you want a good foundation for that house. When you build a landscape, when you build a garden, you need a good soil. There's a fact that you can always remember, no matter where it is that you live. If you add organic matter to any soil in the world, you will improve that soil. Whether it's a heavy clay or a sandy soil, you will improve that soil. Organic matter includes things like peat moss, sphagnum peat moss. It includes compost, well-rotted manure. It also includes a shredded pine bark mulch. I put an inch or an inch and a half of each one of those into the top foot or so of soil. That's what's in that mix right there. And then 1 inch of expanded shale. That looks like ground up flower pots. And in a clay soil, I'll add 1 inch of that into the soil. And that gives you a mix that's almost like potting soil. Number 2 fact to use: good landscapes begin with good plans. Have you ever just found a beautiful plant? I think I'll buy that. I think I'll take that home. And then you say, where am I going to put that? I don't really have a place for that plant. I think we've all done that. And that's a great way to fail, because that's when you get this gigantic tree and you have no business planting that thing. What was I thinking? So instead of doing that, you need to have a plan, and you need to hold to that plan. If you're going to take a journey, let's just say you're in downtown Fort Worth and you decide that you want to go to downtown, pick a beautiful city, Tyler, and then you get the idea, I believe I'll go through Austin. That's pretty too. That kind of is out of the way a little bit, you know? You need to have a road map. You need to have a map for your journey. And that's what your landscape plan is. GPS kind of ruined that whole concept for me, but you need to have a map. You need to have something that is drawn to scale. This drawing that you're looking at is a to scale, kind of a schematic of our World Collection Park of crepe myrtles in the city of McKinney, out in Craig Ranch. You see a school bus over there on the right, and that gives you some scale of how big that park is. It's 7.5 acres. All of the known varieties of crepe myrtles. This was not the planting plan. This was just kind of a presentation plan done by my friend Roland Jackson, so we could show it to the city and say, this is what we have in mind. I just realized as I'm looking at that he has some blue trees in there. I'm wondering what he had in mind when he drew those in. Guess I'll worry about that another day. Simple landscape. Simple landscaping is always in style. You'll never have to apologize for something simple. Look at how tasteful that is. It's beautiful and it's natural looking, and yet it is simple. Keep it simple. That goes for interior decorating, and it certainly does go for exterior decorating as well. Your house is the picture. Remember that, and the focal point of that picture is the front door. So that's where you're trying to draw attention. You use the tall plants off to the sides to frame the house, and you keep it simple. You don't do things to block that view, and you don't repeat the straight lines of the house. You try to draw attention to it without just repeating all of those lines. Your landscape is the frame of the picture. If you think of a beautiful painting, you would not put a pink and purple polka dotted frame around most paintings. That's rarely done unless it's some very, very modern art of some sort. So remember, your house is the picture. You need a nice frame. Landscapes are never really completed. Now, I'm going to show you 3 photos of my landscape. I'm not showing you the really way back when before of our landscape, and I'm not going to show you the here is how it started out. I'm going to show you, oh, that didn't look good. And that's this photo. What happened to the grass? Well, the grass got trampled out because that was a walk area, and it got shaded out. Wasn't enough sunlight. I tried, I planted new sod. That was a mistake. You know, when I tell you that if you don't have 5 or 6 hours of direct sunlight, St. Augustine isn't going to grow, that's where I learned. Those are words of experience. All right, so that was what caused me to say, time to remodel. That was the remodel job. I put a walkway in so I wouldn't have the trampling. I got the beds ready like I described. I hadn't yet rototilled, but there is the bed prep underway, and then there was the finished product. And we just redid the bed on the left to put some more mondo grass in it, something a little bit more permanent that looked better in the wintertime. Good landscapes are works in progress. Number 5, very thirsty today. Like our plants, we need a little sip of water once in a while. Know your USDA plant hardiness zone map. That's a lengthy phrase, isn't it? That is a fabulous work of art. This was done first back, I think, in the 30s. And the United States Department of Agriculture started keeping records of the lowest temperature achieved every winter, and they averaged them. And that's county by county across the whole United States, even in the mountains. And so then you can look in, you can get a copy of that map. The thing is 5 or 6 feet across, and you can find your county, and you can find right where the dividing lines are in your county. And you can see that you may go to 15 degrees on your county, a little north of you, 10 degrees, whatever it is. That's the national USDA plant hardiness zone map. Now I'm going to show you a simplified version of it from my latest book, Lone Star Gardening. This is the 1990 map. About every 20 years, they redo that fancy map, the real map. This is Neil's map. You have a real map and a Neil map. This is the Neil map. And the 1990 map, I want you to look at that, and then I'm going to show you the 2012 map that was redone at that time. After, and I don't want to get into global warming. There it comes again. Whether you're an advocate or not, we did have a string of some fairly warm winters in the early aughts, between 2000 and 2012 or so. There were a lot of warm winters. And so the average lowest temperature in the winter kind of went up a little bit. And look what it did to the zones. Look where zone 8 went, the yellow zone. It moved up enough that it includes all of the Metroplex. Zone 7, almost all of the Panhandle. Oh, for crying out loud. Well, what that means is if you choose a plant that is marked as being hardy in Zone 8, you're going to do quite well with it in Dallas-Fort Worth. That would be oleanders and gardenias. And to that, I have a one-word comment. Yikes! That plant's likely to freeze on you. Be very, very careful. I think, and I say this, I'm not going to talk a lot about my book. You know, the authors who come in my book, I tell you, on page 3 or 4, I warn you that you need to stick to a zone warmer. That's going to be the bigger number, the lower number. I'm sorry, it'd be Zone 7. Stick with Zone 7 plants in the Metroplex, and you'll be much safer. You won't have the freeze loss that you will if you use a lot of Zone 8 plants. Just keep that in mind, and you'll be a lot safer. That's a significant change, and I'll bet this map will adjust back south again. All right. Oh, there it says, be very careful. Native is not always best. I get a lot of questions on my radio program and on my Facebook page. I have a really active Facebook page. It's just my name, Neil. I have to spell it right, Sperry. A lot of questions. Neil, I want to do my whole landscape in native plants. And to that I ask, well, where are you talking about? Native where? Well, I live in Bedford. I just want it native to Bedford. Well, that rules out a lot of plants that people are going to call native plants. That red yucca that you see there blooming on the right and the left and the far left, that's not native anywhere around Bedford or anywhere around North Texas. The Shumard red oaks, the good dark green oaks are. Pin oak is native to East Texas. That's the yellow tree. That's not water oak. That's a pin oak. That's a sorry dog tree. That was accidentally planted in Allen. That's where I took this photo. You need to choose plants that are adapted. This is what my dad did. He had a PhD in botany from the University of Nebraska, and then he ended up founding the Range and Forestry Department at College Station at A&M. Before that, he had founded the biology department at Sul Ross in Alpine. And he talked about adapted and native plants from the time I can remember learning how to hold a fork. He was telling me about this stuff.